Good morning, everyone. And let me apologize on the front end. The joys of an 18-month-old in allergy season, so my voice is a little shot, so forgive me. But I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank all of the law enforcement officers who are here with me. First Assistant Attorney General Lindsay Rotolo, Director of the Division of Criminal Justice Teresa Hilton, of course Colonel Pat Callahan and Lieutenant Colonel Phil Buck, and a whole bunch of our investigators from the New Jersey State Police who did extraordinary work on the case that I'm about to discuss, and do extraordinary work every day on behalf of the residents of our state. Romanticized versions of organized crime have been the subject of countless movies and television shows, often set right here in the Garden State. But the reality of organized crime isn't romantic or cinematic. It's about breaking the laws. It's about breaking the laws that the rest of us follow. And ultimately, it's about money, control, and the threat of violence. My office has been bringing every resource available to crack down on violent criminals, including organized crime. And we are committed to rooting it out in all of its forms. And that's exactly what we've done. Today, we're here to announce that 39 people, including a Prospect Park councilman and known members of the Lucchese organized crime family, have been charged with racketeering, gambling offenses, money laundering, and other crimes in connection with multiple illegal card games and online sports betting in North Jersey. These arrests are the result of an extensive and methodical 2-year investigation into a sophisticated illegal gambling operation tied to the Lucchese crime family. And all told, the investigation resulted in the identification of over $3 million in suspected criminal proceeds. Each of the 39 defendants have been charged with the first-degree crime of racketeering, along with the second-degree crimes of conspiracy to promote gambling and money laundering, along with various other charges. Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, Teresa Hilton, will detail those charges in a moment. On Wednesday, investigators from the New Jersey State Police conducted searches of 4 poker clubs located in Totowa, Garfield, and Woodland Park, including 2 clubs where backroom poker games were hidden behind functioning restaurants. One was a business in Patterson where gambling machines were stored, and 7 residences of individuals alleged to be managing the gambling activities. Among those arrested was a Prospect Park councilman, and as well as a local business owner, Anand Shah, 42, of Prospect Park, who's been identified as one of the alleged managers of the illegal poker games, as well as of an online sports book associated with the Lucchese crime family. I'll note here that as New Jersey's chief law enforcement officer, I am keenly aware of the public's perception of elected officials in New Jersey and the lack of trust that so many have in their public officials and governmental institutions. The arrest of a sitting council member only adds fuel to that fire, but I also want it to serve as a warning to other elected and appointed officials throughout our state who operate as if the laws don't apply to them. Let them be warned. The law not only applies to you, but the Department of Law and Public Safety, the Division of Criminal Justice, the New Jersey State Police will strictly enforce our law regardless of what office you hold or how powerful you may be. Ultimately, this investigation uncovered additional poker clubs, the involvement of dozens of individuals who allegedly hosted poker games or worked at poker clubs, as well as an online sports book. As alleged, these poker clubs operated under a defined organizational structure with high-level managers who delegated the day-to-day operations of the clubs to managers who were present during the games. Those managers collected rent from the poker hosts, and oversaw employees who worked in the clubs. Poker hosts, meanwhile, were responsible for recruiting the players, supplying food and drinks, and financially staking the game. At legal gambling casinos, the casino is often known as the house. In these illegal poker clubs, the hosts filled that role, and they made money on each game because the dealers took a percentage of the monies bet by the players as a profit for the house for each hand played. In turn, the dealers were paid by the hosts, or they themselves, they being the dealers, were working off a prior gambling debt owed to the hosts. These so-called clubs also housed gambling machines that players could use while waiting for a seat at a live poker game. At the same time, the online sportsbook was operated by agents filling the traditional role of a bookie, who created online accounts on sports gambling websites based in foreign countries. The high-level managers of the criminal enterprise who were charged, many of whom are allegedly members of the Lucchese crime family, include George Zappola, 65 of Red Bank, Joseph R. Big Joe Perna, 56 of Belleville, John Perna, 47 of Little Falls, and Wayne Cross, 75 of Spring Lake. They are each charged with first-degree racketeering and second-degree conspiracy to promote gambling and money laundering, among other crimes. They allegedly oversaw the gambling activities and received a portion of the criminal proceeds, often using multiple shell corporations and functioning businesses to hide their ill-gotten gains. And as I said, this case is ultimately about those illicit gains. Organized crime in 2025 may look different than it did 50 years ago, especially thanks to the online component. And some of the language may have changed, but it's the same old story. Criminals motivated by greed and power who think they are above the law. So let today's announcement be a reminder that in New Jersey, no one is above the law. And our law enforcement officers, the finest in this country, and our prosecutors are committed to holding you accountable if you break it. To that end, I want to thank the many investigators and prosecutors who worked on this case across state and federal offices. In particular, I'd like to thank Deputy Attorneys General Heather Housleben, who are here with me, William Cooper Dow, who are prosecuting this case for the Division of Criminal Justice under the supervision of Assistant Attorney General Eric Dabb. I want to thank again the Colonel and Lieutenant Colonel, Detective Sergeant Michael Gallant and Lieutenant David Lysick, and Lieutenant Scott Sanders of the New Jersey State Police, who had an extraordinary team, again, over 2 years, and were tireless in pursuing every lead here to help build this case. I want to thank our FBI partners in Newark, Red Bank, and New York City. And I'd particularly like to thank Terrence Riley, the acting special agent in charge of the Newark field office. I also want to thank Juan Matos and the U.S. Marshal Service, the United States Probation Office, the State Department, and the State Department of Corrections Special Operation Group. So now it's my honor to turn the podium over to the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, Teresa Hilton. She will in turn hand the mic to the Colonel of State Police, Pat Callahan.
Thank you, General. Thank you all for being here. As you just heard, we are here today to highlight the sweeping takedown that strikes at the heart of organized crime in our state. This operation was led by the New Jersey State Police with the assistance of the Division of Criminal Justice and the FBI, following a 2-year investigation into an illegal gambling enterprise tied to the Lucchese crime family. This operation is a reflection of the tremendous law enforcement partnerships within New Jersey. As the General indicated, on Wednesday, 39 people, including a Prospect Park councilman, were charged with racketeering, gambling offenses, money laundering, and other crimes in connection with multiple illegal card games and online sports betting in North Jersey. This was not a backyard betting pool. This was a highly structured, highly profitable criminal enterprise run by people who believed they were above the law. They were wrong. These defendants operated with the impunity that too often characterizes organized crime. According to the complaints, the operation ran poker clubs in Totowa, Garfield, and Woodland Park. As you heard from the Attorney General, these poker clubs operated under a defined organizational structure with high-level supervisors delegating daily operations to lower-level managers. Those individuals would collect money from the poker hosts, who were ultimately responsible for recruiting participants. These so-called clubs also housed illegal gambling machines. But the reach was far greater than that. The top defendants in this case collected criminal proceeds from all across northern and central New Jersey. They allegedly then funneled those illegal proceeds through shell corporations and other businesses and used illegal tactics to maintain control and expand their enterprise. Ultimately, this investigation resulted in the identification of over $3 million in suspected criminal proceeds. They did this all with the belief that they could evade justice, but today they are being held accountable. 39 defendants have been charged with first-degree racketeering and second-degree conspiracy to promote gambling and commit money laundering and other related crimes. I have the full list of their charges. Given that it's 39, I will defer to questions on any specific defendant on the full charge breakdown. Generally, New Jersey's racketeering statute was specifically enacted by the legislature to address the existence of organized crime and the associated activities. The penalties are purposely harsh in order to prevent, disrupt, and eliminate the infiltration of organized crime in our state. Similarly, DCJ was created to tackle the statewide impact of organized crime. The defendants in this case will face their charges in Morris County Superior Court. If convicted on first-degree racketeering, they face 10 to 20 years in prison, and that is a No Early Release Act charge, which means they will serve 85% before being eligible for parole. And the charges that they face include 5 to 10 years in prison for the second-degree charges. Let me be clear, this takedown is about more than gambling. It is about accountability, and it is about dismantling the systems and structures that allow organized crime to thrive. And it's about ensuring that those who profit from illegal activity face real consequences. I want to thank all of our partners who made this possible. It was a true team effort, and it demonstrates the strength of what we can achieve when we work together. Members of the New Jersey State Police, DCJ, and the FBI were up as early as 2 a.m. on Wednesday, 2 days ago, and who are now here to execute this complex and widespread takedown. In the first day, they had 35 people in custody and had executed 14 search warrants. It's an impressive feat, and it speaks to the strength and effectiveness of our partnerships in combating crimes in New Jersey. As this case now moves through the prosecution, we will continue to pursue justice relentlessly, because that is what the public deserves, nothing less. So thank you. I will now turn it over to Colonel Callahan.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, General. I'll be brief and just echo some of what you've heard already. Monday, I celebrated my 30th anniversary of being a Jersey trooper. I've never seen such a massive collaborative effort in my 3 decades, and even looking into the past beyond those 3 decades of such an effort. Hundreds and hundreds of state police personnel, Division of Criminal Justice, federal partners contributed to this. So I stand here as we literally and physically shoulder to shoulder. But a 2-year investigation is a labor-intensive, massive undertaking that culminated in those arrests and charges on Wednesday. Evidence that illegal gambling and money laundering still serve as a major source of income for these criminal enterprises. You think about where this infiltrated into local governments, into appointed and elected officials. It was a pretty far-reaching investigation. And to the generals and directors' points, everybody's got to be held accountable who think that they are above the law and that they're not going to get caught, and that there's, the conversations that there are no victims in this crime, which is not true whatsoever. Just a phenomenal effort to be a part of. I thank everybody who was involved, especially I'm a little biased because of our troopers, but it really was a team effort far beyond the state police, and we wouldn't be standing here today touting this as the phenomenal investigation that it was, if it wasn't for those hundreds of men and women that cared about bringing these individuals to justice. General?
Thank you, Colonel, and thank you, Director. Happy to take some questions. John?
With the council member, can you better fully describe his role? Was he a member or an associate of Lucchese crime family?
Oh.
And was his public role as a council member impacted as a result of his alleged connection to the crime?
So I can speak to the charges related to Mr. Shah.
It's a lot of pages.
It is. I'm sorry. Here we go. So with respect to Mr. Shah, he is charged with first-degree racketeering, second-degree conspiracy, fourth-degree promoting of gambling by bookmaking, fourth-degree promoting gambling by materially aiding gambling, fourth-degree maintaining. Do you want me to go slower? Okay. Fourth-degree maintaining a gambling resort, third-degree possession of gambling records, second-degree criminal usury, first-degree money laundering by possessing criminal proceeds, first-degree money laundering by concealment, first-degree money laundering by directing transactions, and third-degree structuring. So with respect to the status of his case, the state has moved to detain him. There is a hearing scheduled on Tuesday, April 15th in Morris County. That's
Can you just further explain, member associated with the Lucchese crime family is the allegation, and did it impact his role as a public official? Did he do anything improper as a result of sitting in the public chair that he sat?
it's very early in the investigation, so there's a lot of details I can't provide. I will say he is not charged with official misconduct. In terms of the Lucchese crime family, some of that structure is fairly well known, right? I mean, you can find it on Wikipedia. He's not listed in there, so based on the evidence we have, I would call it an associate.
Are all 39, you mentioned 35 were under arrest? Are all 39 under arrest right now?
37 are under arrest right now. 2 are out of state, and we're in the process of arresting them. Sorry.
I just want to underscore that to get 37 folks arrested in a day, it takes an extraordinary amount of work and planning. And state police, Division of Criminal Justice, our federal partners who I listed, corrections, it takes an incredible amount of planning to do a takedown like that. And it speaks to the partnerships we have.
I was also wondering if you could describe some of the other members and or associates in terms of their ranks. How high up are they in the allegedly in the crime family? And also, I was wondering if in this investigation, is there any evidence that has shown there's any sort of attempts to fix games in terms of the sports betting angle?
I'm going to want to, I don't know how much you can say about the organization beyond what's up there.
Yes, I don't know that I can say more than this.
Well, who's the highest ranking and what was his role? And tell us what you can.
Okay, so I don't mean this flippantly, but it kind of goes along the structure you see there. So the highest ranking is the individual on top, and then below him, and of course that's George Zappola. Below him would be Joe Perna, and then beneath Joe Perna, our understanding and the evidence that we have is that John Perna and Wayne Cross are underneath of him, and then we get to the people who were organizing the gambling operations. So we have, do you want me to keep going?
I was just wondering, Zappola is a captain, is he a sergeant? Like, how would you rank him in terms of the case?
The ruling panel is the ruling panel.
And in terms of the sports betting possible, any evidence regarding attempts to influence games?
No, we did not see that.
But as has been said, this is an ongoing investigation. Yeah.
I want to ask about what the acting U.S. attorney said yesterday, which is that she's launched an investigation into you and the governor stemming from the Immigrant Trust Directive. What's your reaction to that, and do you plan to repeal the Immigrant Trust Directive? Are you going to, does it remain in force?
Oh, the Immigrant Trust Directive is settled law. It's been upheld by judges appointed by President Trump. I don't typically launch investigations on cable news networks. This case is an example of the partnerships we have in New Jersey that have produced record low levels of gun violence, 30% reduction in opioid deaths, more human trafficking cases prosecuted in 1 year than in the previous 4 years combined, and I could go on. Those results happen because of the strong partnerships we have across federal, state, and local law enforcement. I'm very proud that that has been the case across multiple administrations, Democratic administrations, Republican administrations, both state and federal. Look, I'm focused on doing my job, which is to keep the residents of our state safe. I just gave you those stats. I'm going to keep doing my job. I know the brave men and women of law enforcement in our state who do extraordinary work every day will keep doing their jobs on behalf of the residents of the state. I know the interim U.S. attorney. She hasn't been there that long. She said publicly she wants to politicize the office. I hope she starts doing her job.
Have you had any conversations with her since she became?
I've reached out in multiple ways, and she has not wanted to have a conversation. So, yes.
Any indication of what the investigation might look like?
I think you saw Sean Hannity's show, and I think that's the result of that's the extent of what we know.
And last night she suggested it was obstruction, or it could amount to obstruction by the governor and by you regarding federal immigration policy. What is your response?
Yeah, again, I'm not going to get into her allegations made on a cable news show. As I said, the Immigrant Trust Directive, which was issued prior to my tenure, has been upheld by multiple federal courts, including judges appointed by President Trump.
And can you explain to the public who now sees this apparent dispute between the U.S. Attorney's Office and state officials, how that's going to affect safety, security moving forward?
Yeah, again, my focus is on continuing to do the job that we do every day, that these brave troopers, that our law enforcement officers do every day to keep our state safe. We are unique in New Jersey. We have very tight relationships across federal, state, and local partnerships. It's resulted in, as I said, the lowest level of gun violence 2 years running, historic amount of human trafficking cases brought, dramatic reduction in opioid deaths. Those numbers don't happen by accident. And I am very proud of the partnerships we've had. I'm committed to making them. The FBI played a critical role in this investigation here, which produced a 39-defendant RICO case against the mob. So we're going to keep doing our job. That's all I can focus on. And I hope she decides to do the same.
For Colonel Callahan, yesterday there was this helicopter crash on the New Jersey side of the Hudson River. I wonder if you could talk about the response that went on from both the New Jersey side and the other side of the Hudson, and your thoughts regarding family, and give any knowledge as to what may have caused that.
Sure, Jonathan. We all watched the video. It was a horrendous tragedy of that flight. I know our troopers, our Marine Service troopers, were there in probably one of the most rapid responses. And when they got there, the FDNY and NYPD was already in the water to speak to how quick this response was. I think they soon came to understand that it went from a rescue effort to a recovery effort in relatively short order. But another example of a collaborative effort. And our hearts certainly go out to not only the pilot but the family that we lost. But and again, I'm not in aviation, but just from the videos alone, obviously some structural maintenance issues with that helicopter from a layman watching that unfold. But we'll see what the NTSB and the FAA come up with regard to their investigation.
And can you listen just on the child, because originally it was either 4 or 5 pronounced at the scene, but there was a Herculean effort to try to save one of those child. Do you know in terms of how
I really couldn't speak to that. I did get that briefing that one of those children was taken to the hospital, but again, I don't know who could have survived that and what the condition of that victim was of that crash, Jonathan.
Can you talk about the directive to police as authorities in New Jersey don't have to work with ICE enforcement?
Yeah, I think I've already addressed that. But I just want to say to the family, as the Colonel said, it's not our case, but the Hudson River's right over here, and our heart breaks for those family members, for the pilot, and I thank, as the Colonel said, NYPD, FDNY, who were, as they always do, in the water as quickly as could possibly be imaginable. I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank the law enforcement officers who do incredible work every day, but particularly on this case, for their tireless pursuit of these defendants and for bringing what is a really substantial case against organized crime, one of the most substantial in recent memory. Thank you all.